All right, this first unit here, we're going to be looking at expressions, formulas, and solving equations. Our learning targets, you're going to hear about these. The one for today, or the thing that you need to be able to do after this unit in video, is write and evaluate expressions and equations. Let's look at some of those terms right now. Algebraic expressions. Those are expressions that have both numbers and variables along with operations. Here's an example, 3x plus 2. Okay, that's an expression. Any of these terms, this one has two of them that have a variable, we call a variable term. If a term, such as the second one, doesn't have a variable, then we call that a constant term. So if you hear those words throughout the year, variable term, that's anything that has a variable in it. A constant term is just a number. Okay, anything that's just a number. The next term, algebraic equation, that's where you take two things and put them equal to each other. So if we take the same 3x plus 2 we just had and put it equal to something, now it becomes an equation. When we talk about these, equations are solved. Expressions, though, are evaluated. So we won't be able to solve this first one down for a number. We'd just be able to simplify it or evaluate it. All right, whenever you're doing either expressions or equations, you want to do them in a particular order. Hopefully you've kind of heard of this expression before, PEMDAS, or some of you may have heard it with this little phrase, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, where you see the same letters. This is an acronym that helps us remember the order we want to evaluate when doing expressions and equations. The P in this stands for parentheses, or any grouping symbol. So anytime you have parentheses or grouping symbols such as brackets, do those first. Next, any exponents. If you have exponents, evaluate those powers. Next, we want to multiply and divide. Oops. Spelled that one wrong. Divide. And then finally, we want to add and subtract. Add and subtract. Okay, so when you're doing that, PEMDAS is actually not 6 steps, even though we had 6 words there. It's actually 4 steps. We want to do parentheses first, like we talked about, then exponents. Multiplying and dividing, though, in step 3, you can do either of those at the same time. Same with our last step here, adding and subtracting. Those are done at the same time. And whenever you do them, you always work from the left to the right. So if you have both adding and subtracting or multiplying and dividing, work left to right. Let's look at some examples here. Number 1 on your note sheet wants you to evaluate this expression. So start with parentheses. Do we have them? Yep. This first one, not really anything to simplify. The second one there is, so we want to start there. 4 plus 3 is going to end up being 7. Okay. Now that we're done with the parentheses, look for any exponents. We do not have any exponents. Then look to multiply and divide. We do have multiplying here. So 2 times 5 is 10. 3 times 7 is 21. Finally, add those together and we get the answer of 31. Why don't you pause the video, try B out right now, see if you can do B. All right, let's see what you came up with. We do have parentheses here. In fact, we got 2 sets of grouping symbols. Anytime that happens, work from inside out. So we want to start here. 30 divided by 6 gives us 5. Now we're not done. We still have stuff inside the grouping symbols here, the brackets. So add these 2 numbers together, and we get 10. Finally multiply to finish, and if you answered with 20, you were correct. All right, let's look at some more expressions. These next ones now, we want to do the same thing, except that we have to plug in or substitute numbers first. They tell us x is equal to 3, y is equal to 4. So anywhere where we see those those variables, we want to substitute in the coordinating number. So this becomes 3, 4 plus 8, and the rest of the expression we write down. Now it's just simplifying it like we did before. Start with parentheses. If we add those two numbers up, we get 12. Now we want to go to multiplying and dividing. Now we have both happening at the same time. So if we have both multiplying and dividing here, work left to right. So 3 times 12 is 36. Divided by 12, the answer looks like it's 3. Okay, why don't you pause it, try D, and see what you get. All right, let's see how you did. You got to do some substituting first here. X should become 12. Y should become 8. Z should become 3. There's also another Z on the bottom here. Okay, so we did that first. Next, once you substitute, start at the top, parentheses. Well, the parentheses are actually all simplified. There's nothing happening in there. Then go to exponents. We do have exponents on this one. So do exponents next. 3 squared, 3 to the second power is going to be 9. Okay, next we want to do some multiplying and dividing. Now we do have some multiplying and dividing here. When you have this fraction type thing, you want to simplify all the top and bottom first before you do that final division. So here we want to do the multiplying on the top in the numerator. 2 times 12 is 24. If we go 24 times 8, we're going to get 192. Now keep simplifying. We want to get this all the way down to just two things. So 192 minus 3 is going to be 189 divided by 9. And if you do that, you should have gotten 21. 21 was the correct answer there. All right, let's look at some expressions now that have variables in them. If you get variables, you want to combine any of the like terms, any of the like variables together. So on A, we want to look, again, at parentheses. Doesn't look like any of these terms in the parentheses are like terms. So then you go to the next thing, which is multiplying or dividing. We do have some multiplying here. Whenever you see a number in front of a parentheses and there's nothing in between, there's some multiplying going on there. So what we need to do is something called distributing, which you've done before. Distribute a 3 to each of the terms inside the parentheses. Okay, so let's do that. We get negative 10x plus 12x squared plus 6. 2 times 3 is going to be 6x. 3 times 2 is again 6. And then we get that plus 4x squared. Okay, there's no more multiplying or dividing left to do, so we're now on our last step, add and subtract all these together, but we only can do like ones. Okay, usually you start with the highest power. The highest power here we got is x squared, and there's 2 of them, so let's combine those together. 12 plus 4 is going to be 16x squared. Then look for the next biggest power, which would be just x to the first power. We got 2 of those. Negative 10 plus 6 is negative 4x. And then finally we have this last minus 6. There is no like terms with it. That's our answer. We can't combine any more of that because they're not like terms. Okay, so why don't you try, pause it again, try B, see what you get. All right, let's see how you did. If you distributed this one right, you should get 4x minus 2. 2 times 1 is 2. We also need to distribute on this other one. Now be careful here. Hopefully you did it right. This is a negative 4 that we need to distribute because there's a minus sign in front of it. So if you distribute to the first one and multiply, you get negative 12x. Negative 4 times positive 1 should be minus 4. If you have plus 4, you didn't distribute the minus sign with it. All right, next, we need to combine any like terms. We got some like terms here. There's a 4x and a negative 12x. That gives us negative 8x. And then we have negative 2 and negative 4, which is negative 6. That's the final answer. All right, number 3 here. This is a word problem. You should also be able to take word problems and simplify if you get numbers that you need to plug in. In geometry, you guys looked at some formulas where you had to do this. Number 3 says the Pyramid Arena in Memphis, Tennessee is the 3rd largest pyramid in the world. The area of the base is 360,000 square feet, and it is 321 feet high. The formula for a volume of a pyramid is volume equals 1/3 base times height, where B represents the area of the base and H is the height. Find the volume of the pyramid of the pyramid arena. So when you get these word problems, one good thing to do is probably go through and see where the important stuff is. We got an equation, we got a couple numbers, we need to know where those go. So the 360,000, 321 should go in somewhere. What are those talking about? Well, it tells us B, capital B, is the area of the base. Which one of these is talking about an area? Well, that would be this first one. That's an area, so that's going to go in for capital B. And then this is feet high. That's a height. That's going to be going in for H. So our problem becomes 1/3 times 360,000, if we substitute that in, times 321. Okay, so we substitute it in for B and H. Now that one looks like just a calculator problem. Everything's on the same side. Everything's being multiplied. So if we multiply that together, we should get the answer. So this is where you would use a calculator to assist you. 1/3, you can type in as 1 divided by 3 times 360,000, and then hit times 321. If we hit enter, you get the volume. And sometimes it might be a bigger number like this, that's fine. So it looks like we get an answer of 38,520,000. And then we want to write units here. Everything was in feet. So this would be feet cubed for volume. And that would be our solution. All right, let's take a look at another one. This is kind of like a word problem too, another geometry type problem. They want us to find perimeter. Hopefully you remember from last year, perimeter is adding up all the outside lengths of this. So in a triangle, we need to add up all 3 of these outside lengths. The problem is we see some variables over there. The good thing is, though, they tell us what the variables are. A is 9 and B is 10. So let's substitute that in and see what we get. If we substitute in here, A, it ends up being 2 times 9, which is 18. So that's how long that side is. Here we got 0.5 times b squared, so times 10 squared. Here, parentheses are simplified. We need to do exponents next. 10 squared means 10 times 10. That's going to be 100. And then 0.5 times 100, that's the same as half of 100, which is 50. So that's how long that side is. Do the same thing on the last one. Looks like we need to substitute in here A, which is 9. We got to multiply first. 5 times 9 is 45. Plus 1, that length is going to be 46. Now to find the perimeter, just add them all up. So the perimeter looks like it's 18 plus 50 plus 46. If we add those all together, we get a perimeter of looks like 100 and, or wait, sorry, 68 plus 46. Let's use our calculator here. 68 plus 46 is 114. And the units on this one are centimeters. All right. In other word problems, you might get some keywords, so we want to know what some of these keywords are. Anytime you hear the words added to, increased by, more than, some, addition to, those are all keywords for adding, plus. So if you see one like 5 increased by a number, we would write that as 5. Increased by means plus. A number is something we don't know, so you could use a variable like n or x or whatever variable you want. I'm going to use x. Subtracted from, decreased by, less than, difference, taken away from. Those are all subtraction. Difference is a kind of one that comes up once in a while. Know that difference means minus. For less than a number, we want to write an expression for that one. This is kind of a tricky one. Here we see that the 4 is first. And then it says less than a number. However, 4 minus x, or 4 minus some variable, is not correct here. On this one, when you are doing less than a number, if you take that away from it, the number is actually the bigger thing. So it would be x minus 4. An example here would be like if it said 4 less than a dollar. If you took 4 less than a dollar, like 4 cents less than a dollar, you would take 4 pennies away and be left with 96 cents. So you got to make sure that the bigger thing comes first. All right, the next one, multiplied by product times 1/3 or half or 1/4 or twice. Those are all things saying to multiply. So 5 times the sum of 9 in the number, we'd write 5 times. Okay, now we get the sum. If we go back, sum is something that means to multiply, or I'm sorry, add. So we're multiplying two things being added here. 9 and a number. So it'd be 5 times 9 plus x. You don't really have to write this little times thing here. We could also just write this as 5 parentheses 9 plus x. All right, quotient divided by, those are two things for division. This next one says twice the sum of a number, and 8 divided by 3. Okay, so twice. We see that that's something for multiplying, so 2 times the sum. We're multiplying to a sum, so things must be being added here in a parentheses. A number, we don't know what that is, and 8. And then the whole thing is being divided by 3. So divided by 3. Or we could also write this, another way we could write this is as a fraction. Divided by 3. You could also write it that way. All right, last thing, is the same as, is equal to. Is usually means equals in these problems. So this last one, the length of a rectangle is twice the width. If we use L for length, twice the width or 2 times the width, we could write something like that. Is means equals. All right, let's try some of these equation ones out. Hopefully you remember stuff about solving equations from last year. 2p equals 14. In this case, to get the variable by itself, we need to undo what's happening here. There's multiplying happening between the 2 and the p. So we need to divide here both sides by 2. Then those 2's cancel out, and we're just left with a p on the left side. 14 divided by 2 equals 7. So p equals 7. So you always want to undo whatever's happening. All right, let's look at b. On b, we have lots of these a terms on the left side of the equation. When you have like terms, before you solve, combine like terms. So if we combine here, we got adding and subtracting, so we're left to right. 7 minus 3 is 4, plus 2 more is 6, minus another 1 would be 5, a left. Okay, now we can divide both sides by 5, and when we divide by 5 here, that cancels out, and so we get that a is equal to, now 16 divided by 5 doesn't go into 16 nice, so you could leave it as 16 over 5 as a fraction, or if you did it as a decimal, you could do it that way too. 16 divided by 5, we get 3.2. So you could also write it as a equals 3.2. Either answer would be correct. They mean the same thing. All right, why don't you pause it quick, try C, see what you get on C. All right, let's see what you got. Hopefully you saw right here, there's some distributing we need to do. So distribute first. You got negative 9y. Negative 9 times 5 is going to be negative 45. Here we got to distribute 6. So 6y, 6 times 8 is 48. There's some like terms here that we probably want to put together. Those two are like terms. These two are like terms. So you get 27 is equal to negative 3y plus 3. Now work on getting the variable by itself. We could do the opposite, minus 3 from both sides. Finally, we need to divide. Now be careful here. Divide by -3 to get it to equal 1 or cancel out. And it looks like in this case that y equals -8. If you had that, that was the correct answer. All right, last problem, a word problem. This one involves an equation, not an expression. It says Carl wants to replace 5 windows in the bedrooms of his 2-story house. His neighbor has agreed to help install them for $250. If Carl budgeted $1,000 for the total cost of replacing the windows, what is the maximum amount he can spend on each window? Write an equation and then use that to solve. So again, try to circle the important information. Looks like he has 5 windows. Now here we see the word to. That one's kind of tricky though. That's not really important to this. That's just describing the type of house that he has. His neighbor has helped install them for $250. There's important information. He's got a budget of $1,000. What is the maximum he can spend? Okay, so if 1,000 is the total, let's put 1,000 equal to 1,000 on one side. We know that's the most he has to spend. All the stuff he spends now should go on the other side of the equation. He needs to replace 5 windows, so let's use W for windows. Also, he needs to pay to install them, and we know it's going to cost him $250 plus the cost of the 5 windows. Can't be more than this 1,000 over here, so we'll put it equal to 1,000. Now, if we solve that, we should have our answer here. So let's take out the $250. We know he's paying his neighbor that to help him. So that leaves Carl with 5 windows with $750 to spend. If we divide equally by 5, it looks like he's going to have $150 to spend on each window. So that's how you go through and do a word problem. All right, you guys are going to try a worksheet now. Hopefully this video has helped you out a little bit.